meeting you in person, I was keen to know what you would look like in person because, you know, I've known your work, but the most recent work I've watched this show like, you know, the rest of the world, and just to see you here in like as a human being, it's a little jarring. I'm not going to lie. You know, I'm not
looking
gonna lie.
young and without the sort of David Lee Roth hairdo and the leather and
exactly. How long did you have to? How long would you sit for this role before you had to even get on set?
Well, the kind of main look, the sort of earlier look for me, that wasn't too bad. I think we got that down to about an hour and a half or something. You know, it was just mainly getting that wig on,
right?
Which is the actual selection of the wig is more complicated than it seems. You know, because they have to match the wig to your skin tone. I thought they just nipped to Party City and buy a wig and plonk it on your head. You know, but it's very intricate. This,
right?
But further on through the show, as he gets sort of sicker, those makeups were around the 4-hour mark. I thought it was longer, but I spoke to makeup the other day, and I think we got it down to about 3.5, 4 hours in the end.
Well, that's what leprosy will do, I guess, you know, and we're looking at a shot on the screen right here.
There you go.
My goodness gracious. And then, of course, just I would imagine just hearing about the role and being able to do it, knowing what Game of Thrones was.
Yeah.
Were you a little concerned about being part of the next iteration, or were you all over this thing, Pat?
I was kind of all over it. It was weird how it happened because we'd been in the lockdowns and we were all watching a lot of television during that time.
Yes.
And I'd put off watching Game of Thrones, and we'd started watching it in the lockdowns, and about 3 seasons in, and I got the call because things were opening up and moving on again. And my agent called and said, you know, are you a fan of Game of Thrones? And I was like, well, that's, you know, kind of weird coincidence because we've been watching it. And they said, oh, they're making a prequel to it set so many years before it, and they want you to play the king. And I was like, right, okay. And so my first real reaction was elation because I thought I'd be honored to do it. And then I just went, oh, I hope it's not one of them where I get the script and he's in about 3 scenes and, you know, he's stood in the background. You know, I've been offered stuff in the past with some really great directors, but I'm literally an extra with a spear in my hand. And I went, I hope it's not one of those. And when I started reading it and read the first 3 episodes, I saw in the episode 1 alone, he goes through an awful lot. And I saw that there was this great arc. And so then my next question was, well, who's turned it down? You know, who said no to this?
Come on, right?
And they were like, no, they've just come straight to you. You know, they want you to play it. So I was like, right. And I was a fan of the show. I thought it was a brilliant show with so many fantastic performances in it. And honestly, I can say hand on heart that when I read it, I thought that it was going to be good. And I remember having conversations on set with Matt Smith even and saying, you know, I think this is going to be good.
And then just what was your reaction to the reaction of this show?
Yeah, it was quite interesting because at first, you know, I don't think people could fully frame my character properly, you know.
Because you're the great-great-grandfather of the Mother of Dragons? Or you're
there might be a few more greats in front of that.
There might be a few more of that, okay.
Yeah, a few more. I've been told that, you know. I was told once the amount of greats, but I've forgotten it. But there's a few.
Right. But you're the direct descendant.
That's right. She's a descendant.
Okay,
yeah.
right.
I loved all that. I loved it. Even my hair, which was really expensive, you know, had tones of Daenerys's palette in it, in my hair. And even little details like that for me. I know it's geeky, but I really like that.
Right.
You know, that there were those little links into the original show.
You know, absolutely. And Matt Smith does resemble, in a way, you know, her brother from the original Game of Thrones, who, spoiler alert, although I guess we're years removed, he doesn't last very long. He gets crowned in that as well. Yeah. So he looks just like him. Like, obviously.
He does. I mean, I was quite worried about the look, and I was trying to get out. It's a very distinct thing, the Targaryen look. Yes. And I was trying to get out of it a little bit, and I was saying, well, what if this guy's got short hair and, you know, we can probably dye my, and I look more like Lee Marvin, and you can, I'm not, you can, you know, I'm all, and they just weren't going for it at all. And I thought, my fear was that I looked utterly ridiculous in the wig. You know, I looked like some terrible sort of 80s LA rock.
Sure,
band.
yeah, like you're White Snake.
And I'm not saying I didn't look ridiculous in the wig.
No,
but
you did. You look
when
great.
you've got everything on, it all fits.
Hey, man, like, again, for me, when you're in a show like this, coming off of a show that's as iconic as Game of Thrones, there's going to be a whole bunch of people out there who go, that's not the real thing. That's not the real thing. That doesn't feel like the real thing. There's a lot of particular people out there, and, House of the Dragon ticked every box.
Yeah, it did.
Every box. Certainly when the dragons are all over the place, too.
Yeah. I never got to ride a dragon, unfortunately.
I know.
Which was, I was a bit disappointed about.
You wanted to hop on it.
I did, really, yeah. And then I realized, when I saw that they were just days sitting up on this saddle,
Is that how it's done?
Yeah, and they couldn't get down for toilet breaks and things like that.
What?
I was like, actually, I dodged a bullet there, I think.
So they have to sit up there and just stay up there.
Yeah, and do all that sort of, flying business.
I love that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.